Okay guys, I was wrong. This is the worst football game of all time. NFL by LJN on the NES is a ridiculously bad game. This one blows everything else out of the water. And I apologize. I mean, I knew that this game was bad, but holy cow, I didn't know it was this bad. Not long ago, I proudly announced that the arcade version of 10-Yard Fight was the worst football video game that I'd ever played. I was frustrated with its lack of speed. The lack of play calling was also ridiculous. And well, this game is really more like a puzzle game than an actual football game. It's kind of hard to make a video game that's worse than that one, but if any company was going to make a video game that was absolutely unplayable, it was going to be LJN. LJN was known for securing video game licenses for major intellectual property entities. I'm talking about stuff like Friday the 13th, or the Uncanny X-Men. There are a ton of these games and they all have one thing in common. They're absolutely awful. Of course, if you've been around on the internet for a while, this is no surprise to you. But you know, even if you've seen all of the classic angry video game nerd videos, you probably still haven't seen much about the sports games that LJN published, and they're some of the worst of all. Now, before I really go off on LJN, I should explain something first. LJN was just a publisher, not the developing company. The developer for most of these horrible games was a Japanese company called Atlas. Of course, that doesn't excuse the fact that LJN did basically no quality control and no playtesting on these games, and then released it under its own name. And where was Nintendo the whole time? So apparently that famous seal of quality didn't really mean anything at all. I mean, these games were really, really bad. LJN's first dive into sports games was Major League Baseball on the NES, which came out in April 1988. This game is horrible beyond belief. The computer will never throw a curveball, which makes it too easy. There's no 10-run mercy rule, which means games last forever. There's no music, there's only different kinds of static. The fielding system is impossible. The only good thing about this game is that you can curve the ball to miss the batter's bat. Overall, I think that this is the worst baseball game of all time. And that one sold over 1 million copies. I'm not kidding. LJN made all of the money that it spent on the Major League Baseball license and then made a huge profit on top of that. All of that for a game that is seriously unplayable. And so naturally, LJN decided to try its luck with the NFL. Now, there wasn't a ton of American football games for the NES back in the 1980s. We've already talked about the NES version of 10-Yard Fight. It's so bad. In 1988, John Elway's Quarterback came out for the NES. It was a pretty faithful version of the arcade game. Now, the arcade game isn't great, but I suppose it's okay for its time. And then you've got NES Play Action Football, which came out right around the same time as LJN's game. Yeah, we'll talk more about that one later. Well, I've been through as many vintage magazines and books as I could find, but I can't find a contemporary review of this game. Nintendo Power skipped it, and GamePro ignored it too. So it looks like I'm going to be flying solo for this review. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that the title animations really aren't that bad. Then, when you get to the actual game, you'll notice that you can choose from any of the 28 NFL teams. So that part's pretty cool. And the teams sort of have the right uniform colors. And that pretty much sums up all the good parts. Now let's get into what playing the game is really like. You'll notice right from the kickoff that the game is basically broken. You're supposed to push either A or B right when the kicker gets to the ball. A is a normal kickoff, B is an onside kickoff. However, in my experience, you can never time it right. Most of the time the kicker just stands there waiting for you to hit the button. The problem is that the controls to this game are delayed beyond belief. I mean, it feels like you could go make a sandwich in the kitchen between when you push the button and when the game registers it. And the other problem is that you have no idea who you're controlling. When you're kicking, the game gives you a player to control completely at random. And when you're receiving, you're supposed to choose from one of the guys that the game lets you choose from. This method of choosing players is explained in the manual. Basically, you push A and one of the directional buttons. But the problem is that the directional instructions on the screen are so small that you can barely see them. And why would I ever want to choose this guy down here if the ball is up there? Anyway, that sets the stage for the most frustrating controls in football video game history, so here we go. Okay, when you call a play, you get this strange screen. There's no explanation in the game about what you're supposed to do. The manual tells you that you need the play calling sheet. That's this sheet. There's offense on this side, and the defense is on this side. I don't actually own the sheet. I got the photo from an eBay auction. The sheet itself actually costs more money than this game, believe it or not. And I haven't been able to find a high quality scan anywhere, probably because nobody in their right mind would want to play this game again. Anyways, you can see here you've got a 2-button combination to push to call any play. Basically, the B button combination calls the formation. The A button combination then calls the play. This is the worst play calling system I've ever heard of. I mean, just look at the competition. Well, we know about 10-yard fight where you don't call any plays at all. You just make it up as you go. John Elway's quarterback had play calling, however, and a pretty good system too. So did the Walter Payton game on Sega Master System. Now the most famous system is the Tecmo Bowl system. This was perfected in Tecmo Super Bowl. Sure, you didn't have many plays to choose from, but you really didn't need that many plays anyway. And these plays are simple and easy to understand. LJN's game gives you nothing but complex plays to choose from. But the most fun part comes when you actually call the play. Okay, forget about what the manual says. To snap the ball on offense, you push A. The quarterback now has the ball even though you don't see it. You can now push B to slow things down and enter passing mode. The game shows you 4 players that you can toss the ball to, and you choose them with the directional arrows. You push A in the direction, and you usually have to push it like 5 times to get it to work. Then comes the slowest pass in the history of video games. Sometimes the game will have you enter this up-close mode where you control your guy and try to catch the ball. Now I guess this is similar to the Madden games where you can control your receiver. However, this is easy and really fluid in the Madden games. Once you figure it out, you can always do it right. With LJN's game, it's a total pain. And the guy catches the ball even when he's not close to it, which is really frustrating. The worst part of this, though, is that the game slows things down to let you pass. I mean, this game was slow enough already. Why slow it down more? Seriously, the players run like there's something wrong with them. When things are really slowed down, the game is honestly unplayable. And if you look closely, you'll realize that the directional arrows are all screwed up. You'd think that I should push down to pass it to the guy at the bottom of the screen, but no, that's not how it works. And then there's the defense, yeah. When you play against the computer, you'll feel like you have no time to call your play. Actually, you can call it after you get to this strange play calling screen. When you get to the game itself, you can choose from 4 different players in your backfield. The game gives you maybe 2 seconds to choose, so you have to choose quickly. My advice is to always go for this short yardage formation and choose a middle linebacker. You can then rush the line before the snap and try to tackle the quarterback right away. The game will never call you offside. In fact, on offense, you can also move the quarterback before the snap and smash into your blockers without any penalties. But there are penalties in this game, believe it or not. They're just totally random. You'll get called for penalties from time to time. It's always the same. It's something that you could never see. The game will tell you that the penalty was declined. It will then assess the penalty against you. But honestly, it doesn't matter. The secret is that the game is really easy. I'll tell you how to beat the computer every single time. When you're on defense, always run this short yardage formation. Chances are good that you'll intercept any pass that they throw. You can also create havoc by simply running past the line of scrimmage before the snap. Now, when you're on offense, you want to run out of the shotgun as much as you can. That means one of these 3 plays. That gives you the time that you need to pass the ball. However, the most powerful plays are the running plays. In fact, the manual explains that runners have a certain boost that makes them almost invincible for a few seconds. Once you realize this, you'll see that you can literally run the ball over defenders by just taking it up the middle, and then it's really easy to rack up the score. But you'll only want to play this game once, trust me. It took me almost an entire hour just to play a single game. I had no idea what I was doing and I still won 28-10. Now, there are other aspects of this game that are ridiculously bad. The field goal system is bizarre since you can't see the ball. You can't change players in the middle of a play, which means that you're out of position almost all the time. And like I said, the game apparently doesn't know the offside rule. So yeah, you guys were right. This is the worst football video game of all time, and it's not even close. If you try to play this game without the instructions, you'll be lost. You actually have to read this stupid manual, and heaven help you if you don't have the play calling card. However, you can get a feel for it if you start choosing plays and paying attention to what happens. This play calling system is ridiculous, but the slowdown in this game is even worse. Seriously, the reason why Tecmo Super Bowl was so widely loved is because it was really playable. Tecmo Super Bowl is actually better than the Madden games. It's a lot more fun, at least. But games like LJN's NFL simply can't compete. This game would be bad for an Apple II or an Atari system. I'm dead serious. It's a stain on the otherwise fine NES library. LJN published a lot of really bad games in those days, but seriously, this one has got to be the worst. I know that the AVGN didn't actually play it, which means it's up to guys like me and you to tell the sad tale. Seriously though, this game is just unplayable. I'd honestly rather play Back to the Future on the NES than this piece of garbage.